So I just watched Return of Godzilla, the first movie in the Heisei era of Godzilla films, considered by many to be the greatest era of Godzilla films. I have no idea why as of yet because I only watched one of them, which was I gotta say this movie was pretty decently good. I'd probably give it a solid 6 out of 10, and it's a lot easier to give this movie a score comparative to the rest of the franchise I've seen so far because this was the first one that actually felt like a real movie, aside from the first one, which is old as shit. And, judging an old movie, you kind of, maybe like not intentionally, but you kind of give it the benefit of the doubt, like, this is an older film, so audiences back in the day may have had a different worldview from what I have now, so you kind of have to take it with the context. You can't just watch it and compare it to whatever movie came out last week, like Endgame or whatever. Like, oh, Avengers Endgame is way better than this shit. This shit just has people standing around and talking for like 30 hours, and the special effects are corny as hell. Like, so you can't just be like, it's clearly a puppet. Like, you're a fucking idiot if you do that. No, Return of Godzilla is the first Godzilla movie that feels like a competent film. Like, it has the I should say, okay, I should clarify what the hell I mean by that. Basically, Godzilla took a 10-year hibernation after Terror of Mechagodzilla came out. They put the character to bed for a while in 1975, and then almost a decade later, in 1984, we get Return of Godzilla, and this movie is very clearly like a huge leap in terms of how the film's overall production quality is. Like, there's better camera angles, more expensive special effects, better looking special effects. They got better actors and a better script, and it's just all around like a tighter movie. Like, the human characters aren't particularly interesting, but that doesn't really matter because the actual plot that you're being fed this time around is actually kind of an interesting plot, so it can hold your attention and you can get something out of it without having to, like, with a lot of the Showa series films, you kind of have to go into it with the mindset of, okay, there's going to be some downtime, I'm going to be bored by large portions of this movie, I'm just watching it for, like, this short list of reasons, and that's it. And you have to kind of, take it how you will. Because if you just watch, say, Godzilla vs. Hedorah right after watching something like Pulp Fiction, per se, you'd just be like, Jesus, like, I can't stand this shit. Because it doesn't feel like it's not like a real movie, but Return of Godzilla kind of is a real movie. And why am I out of focus? Okay. Yeah, no. Return of Godzilla feels like a competently made film. At the same time, though, I can't really say that it's that great of a movie because it kind of rehashes the same general plot from the first movie where Godzilla's the bad guy again, and he's stomping around Tokyo and smashing shit up, and the military's trying to find a way to deal with him, and they're sort of being, like, pressured to use nuclear, bombs against Godzilla, but they don't want to, and they kind of bring in the big moral questions of is it okay to, which the nuclear warfare thing is a lot less fresh in this movie, because it's been done before and it's been done better with the oxygen destroyer and all that. So it's kind of like, I mean, it's still, like, interesting. It's still a compelling narrative. It's just not as compelling this time around because it's not as new of an idea. And also, generally, like, Godzilla wasn't as threatening in this movie. In the first Godzilla was menacing, he was evil. Like, he would look around, find people, and then deliberately kill them just because Godzilla was representative of the atom bomb. And in this movie, Godzilla's just a big dumb animal. Like, he wants to devour radiation, so he goes to nuclear power plants and sucks all the power out of them, because that's how he eats. And he doesn't really kill people, or he just retaliates. Like, that's what happens for real, is that Godzilla just decides to stomp through the city in search of more radiation to absorb, but, his stomping around just happens to be really dangerous for everyone and everything in his path. So the military inevitably is going to try to attack him, and when they attack him, he gets mad, and he blasts everyone with his atomic breath. And lots of people die in this movie. He fucking blows up a whole, like, coastline full of soldiers, and there's a bit where you see a soldier, like, on fire, screaming, which is pretty cool. But, you know, it's kind of like... I have to say, this movie, it's not as corny as what came before it, but it's also not as fun. It's like... This is probably the most generic possible Godzilla movie. Watching this, feels like there's no reason to watch this one, other than to just have the knowledge in your head of like, okay, this is just... That's what this movie is, like what I'm doing. I'm just watching all the Godzilla movies so I can have all the knowledge of Godzilla in my head. I'm not watching this because I think it'll be a great movie. It's rather like... It's just okay. I can't imagine a reason to watch this over, say, something like the first Godzilla, or even like Godzilla 2014, because at least Godzilla 2014 is relevant to the here and now, like the new movie coming out soon, King of the Monsters, and that's going to tie into like Kong Skull Island and all that stuff. So this one doesn't really have much relevance. I mean, the next movie after this one is called Godzilla vs. Biollante. So this movie is just here to introduce a new Godzilla, to bring up the idea of all the past movies except for the first one are now non-canon. The first Godzilla happened 30 years ago, and now it's 1984, and this is the new Godzilla. So just get used to it, because this is the one that you're going to be watching and fight other giant monsters for the next while, which is pretty wild. I guess it's kind of weird to think that this is now... what I'm now watching is a world where Megalon and Rodan don't exist anymore, or at least they won't exist until they've been introduced again. So, assuming any of them do get introduced again, I know Ghidorah comes back. Outside of that, I don't know much. So, yeah, it's pretty I mean, it is pretty jarring going from one continuity of just over-the-top, cheesy, stupid baby movies to what seemingly is going to be a bit more mature. It's going to take itself a bit more seriously. There's going to be more effort and budget thrown at it. I just hope they maintain this level of production value in the next few movies, because if they do, I could see finding these a lot more interesting. It's not to say that watching the show a series wasn't interesting. It was, just for less wholesome reasons. I think... Yeah... oh yeah, fun side note. This is the movie that my profile picture came from. I had no idea. I picked out this profile picture like years ago just because I thought it looked funny, and then I saw it in Return of Godzilla and I was like, oh shit, like that's the face he makes. It looks really stupid. Most of the time he actually looks pretty cool. He looks pretty menacing. He opens his mouth, he roars, he's got pointy teeth in his mouth, it's neat. There's just that one shot where he just goes bah. That's the one I decided to make my profile picture. But no, that's all in all, the best way I can sum up Return of Godzilla is that watching Return of Godzilla is like watching a remake of King Kong. Like, why would you bother watching anything other than the original King Kong if you had any interest? Like, you miss out on like half the point of King Kong if you just watched the remake, especially if you watch like the 1970s remake, because Peter Jackson's remake isn't great, but it is more new and it is more relevant to the here and now. So like, I can't think of a reason to, unless you were like a King Kong fan and you wanted to watch all his movies in order. That makes sense. I don't see a reason to just like, I would never recommend someone start with Return of Godzilla. You know, like just watch the first one and then skip to whatever next good Godzilla movie you want to see, you know? So, yeah, this one's it's like a decent movie. I liked it okay, but that's it. It was just okay. Pretty flat. So, yeah, that's it. Next movie's Godzilla vs. Biollante, I said. Yeah, I think he's gonna fight a plant in that one. I think it's about a plant or something. Can't wait.